and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chris, you're all set? You call the roll?
Mike?
Here.
Dale?
Here.
Burgess?
Present.
Jamie?
Present.
Present.
There's still time to save lives.
On this evening's agenda, we have a public hearing. Area variance 2022-AV7 for Michael LePage, parcel number 318.1-1-16, 7 Ralph Road for front yard setback relief. Review of a new application, area variance 2023-AV-1, applicant Michael Goodhart, agent for owner, Nancy Seed.
Did I do that?
What's that?
Oh, you're reading the agenda. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Sorry.
It's okay. Had me confused. Michael Goodhart, agent for owners Nancy Seed and Matt Witten, 528 Gailey Hill Road, Lake Luzerne, asking for side yard setback relief, approval of minutes from the ZBA meetings, January 12th, 2023, and new and old business. And with that, I still got to wait 2 minutes.
I have 706.
That's 706 on the computer.
So, yeah. Okay. And with that, I will open the public hearing on area variance 2022-AV7 for Michael LePage, parcel number 318.1-1-16, 7 Ralph Road for front yard setback relief. I don't see anyone other than the applicants present. Have we received any letters?
Yeah, I have to read the public hearing notice. Please take notice that pursuant to the zoning ordinance of the town of Lake Luzerne, the zoning board of appeals will conduct a public hearing on February 9th, 2023 at 7:05 PM at their regularly scheduled meeting. The meeting will be held at the municipal complex, 539 Lake Avenue, town of Lake Luzerne, to hear comments on the following. Area variance 2022 AV-7, applicant owner Michael LePage, parcel number 318.1-16, residential town zone RT 1.77 acres. Location 7 Ralph Road. The applicant has applied for a variance from the zoning board of appeals for relief from the zoning ordinance of Lake Luzerne, Article 5, dimension requirements, A, front yard setback. Proposed front yard setback of the principal structure is 71.4 feet and a minimum of 75 feet is required. A copy of the application as well as other supporting documentation are on file with the Office of the Zoning Officer and may be reviewed by interested members of the public during normal business hours, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. All parties in interest and citizens will be given an opportunity to be heard in respect to the proposed variance at the public hearing. Persons may respond by letter, appear in person or by agent, or participate via Zoom. Access Zoom by computer at zoom.com or by phone at 646-558-8656. The meeting access code for Zoom is 902-687-9764. Karen Putney, zoning officer, town of Lake Luzerne, P.O. Box 370, 539 Lake Avenue, Lake Luzerne, New York, 518-696-2711, extension 4. Lake Luzerne 4 at albany.twcbc.com, published July 30th, 2023. I did receive one reply by email. It came in on, it was sent February 4th, Saturday, February 4th at 11:05 a.m. And it says, "Dear Karen, I am responding to a notification about the public hearing from my neighbor Michael's proposed variance for the setback of his house at 7 Ralph Road. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend the meeting this Thursday evening. I do want to say that I support the approval of this variance. The placement of his house does not impede my use of my own property in any way. Sincerely, Thomas P. Donovan, 17 Ralph Road, Lake Luzerne, New York, 12846. That's the only one I received.
Okay. I'll ask the question. Does anyone here have comment on this? And we'll close the public meeting. When we reviewed the application at last month's meeting, we requested the applicants provide additional information help us better understand what was going on here. That information is included in your packet from this evening. I would like to go over that additional information before we go over the application. So with that, we had requested that the Mr. LePage provide documentation from the construction individual, the excavator, showing that he had made an attempt to remove that large rock, which was the impact, which was the barrier to placing the foundation in the originally proposed location. In your packet, you have a copy of the check, front and back of the check. There's also an invoice from Morgan Construction Services for that excavation and jackhammering. And there is a sworn affidavit from Mr. Morgan, the excavator, specifying that he needed to move the foundation because of the ledge rock, which he was unable to remove. I believe, Jamie, that is all the information that we requested.
Yes, that's what we requested, and thank you. You did a good job providing it all.
I do have a couple of questions regarding the invoice. The date on the invoice is January 27th of 2023. The due date is January 27th of 2023. The date on the canceled check is 9/19/2022. If you would please come up to the table.
Make sure you speak into the mic.
The original copy of it, I'd misplaced. I didn't have it. So I asked him if he could just write up another one for us. And then he emailed it out and I printed it. But it was absolutely in January. If you look at the pictures of the videos, I don't know if they're time stamped. But they're absolutely from September.
Okay, so this is just a duplicate invoice.
It is, yes.
Okay, thank you. In Mr. Morgan's statement, the last line of the statement says no one questioned it when we had it inspected, so we moved forward with it. Inspected by who?
The county of Warren County. And the bank came and inspected it as well. Their response was that they don't take out tape measures when they inspect something.
And the bank approved all this.
Yeah,
and
they did as
and
well.
Then you moved in and all that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The bank approved it after the second survey was performed that they required.
Yeah, because that was, when we realized it was off. Mr. did it again. So I called the bank and they were okay with it. They read through it. Thought it was, very minimal amount. They didn't notice it when they went out either. So I'm just been keeping, touching base with them about this. But we had the closing after and everything, so.
This part of the bank's request was it for it to be plotted after construction, correct?
Right. Before and after, yes.
And you just brought this to the attention of the board, you're on your own free will, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. From Charles from Warren County, the stage we should probably, because I asked him that it was off, and he says, you need to get in touch with Ms. Putney.
Okay.
So we did that immediately.
Great.
Does anyone else have any questions on the additional information provided?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm all set with that.
All right, then I'd like to go through the application. This area of variance is seeker exempt, has no impact for county planning. And APA approval is not required. Property address is 7 Ralph Road, Lake Luzerne. Applicant is Michael LePage. Looking for a Article 5, Section A, Table A, excuse me. Area variance from the required 75 feet to 71.4 feet. Karen has received the payment for the application. Property is 1.77 acres purchased to make a primary home. Lot was cleared. There were obstacles due to the amount of rocks on the land. Proposed action, the modular was to be placed on the foundation, built to measurements on the plot plan. Ledge rock on the upper 3 sides. Contractor tried with an excavator and jackhammer, but it would not break. Going into the variance standards. Question number 1, describe how the requested variance will not alter the character of the larger neighborhood or impact adjacent properties. Response is the requested variance is to ask for the exception of the location of the foundation that was placed a minimal distance closer to the road and a short distance away from our neighbor on the right due to the ledge rock prohibiting the placement of the foundation on the original plan. Anyone have any questions on the response?
So these pictures you provided us, that I have to imagine it's your neighbor's house in conjunction with both of them?
Yes, one was from Mr. Donahue. He's at the tan house, and then the red house down the road. Unfortunately, the original character of the neighborhood is the people across the street.
Okay, I want to clarify that.
So
Thank you.
just to clarify that we are not affecting the character.
Right, yeah, I took the right line. So that they did, well, it is entered in with the, or is that just,
They will be entered.
okay.
I just brought those.
I need those back.
Oh, I know.
Pictures of somebody's house. Burgess,
No questions.
Rail,
I'm happy with the answer.
Mike.
No further questions.
Question number 2, describe what alternatives have been explored to achieve a solution other than a variance. Contractor rented a jackhammer attachment for the excavator. There was an extra fee of over $3,000. Many hours were spent trying to break up the rock, and an attempt was made to dig around it to try to loosen it. Rock broke very little, but not enough to make for a level floor. Therefore, the wall of the foundation had to be moved to the other side of it. I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, in conjunction to what they verified with that's answers that question for me.
They've proven the attempts. The suppressed. Answers it.
Question answered.
Mike,
Questions answered.
explain whether this variance is substantial. The original response is the current foundation is sufficient and has been approved by the Warren County Building and Codes Inspector, as well as the inspector from the lender at Homestead Funding. No one has noticed anything wrong because it was so minor. That has also been to that for the last meeting. The statement requested variance is only 4-foot change on one corner, and it's a small amount. I agree that the setback distance, which is less than 4 feet, is not substantial. Jamie?
Yeah, it's not substantial, especially since it goes from 4 feet down to 0 across the front of the house. So questions answered.
Correct. Questions answered.
Rail?
Questions answered.
Questions answered.
Describe how the requested variance will not have an adverse impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. Keep my fingers on the right pages. Question variance is for minimal change. It will not be noticeable to our neighbor on the left or the proper neighbor across the road. We have the pictures provided by the applicant. Has everyone been to the work site?
Yes,
I can say from my being at the work site that the request is not noticeable from the road.
I agree.
Agreed. Question answered.
Question answered.
Mike,
I agree. Questions answered.
describe how the requested variance is not a self-created difficulty. So the requested, the rocky condition of the property under the proposed foundation couldn't be foreseen until the digging had begun. Well, I agree that is true. Just about everything is a self-created difficulty.
Right, but they made the best of a bad situation.
I agree. So
Yeah.
I'm satisfied with the answer.
Question answered.
Agreed.
Question answered.
Questions answered.
Matt, excuse me, you might want to read that,
I'm going to.
okay, because that's a part of those questions as well.
Yeah, I know. And I'm glad you reminded me because
Okay,
we do have a letter from the applicants, which I'll read for the record. Dear zoning board, I'd like to take a moment and just do a quick review of the variance standards that were discussed at the last meeting and to advise that some added items are there for you to review. The exception of the variance will not negatively alter the essential character of the neighborhood. On the contrary, adding a beautiful new home will continue to aesthetically enhance it, as the recent construction of new homes in the vicinity have made compared to the original character of the neighborhood. Our home creates a positive addition to the area. We have submitted the information that shows the disadvantaged circumstances of unseen underground rocky conditions through our photos, a video, a paid invoice, and a letter from the contractor himself. All which show that there were many steps taken to try and stick to plan, but the rock ledge was and did not want to budge. Our contractor made the most minimal change as possible so the foundation could be done, moving the home from the required 75 feet minimum to 71.4 feet. The change does not apply to any substantial portion of the neighborhood. We have the plight of uniqueness of the land. The variance exception request is related to this uniqueness and is not due to any self-created hardships. Michael and I respectfully appreciate and thank you for your time and interest. We really love this area and are beyond excited to move in and be an active member of this community. Sincerely, Michael LePage and Monica Alden. Anyone have any comments?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Burgess, any additional comments?
No, sir. Unforeseen circumstances with no ill intentions is my belief.
Rail?
Happy with it.
No
Mike?
further comments.
I don't know if he's ready for a motion.
Yes, the position is well stated. I make a motion to grant area variance 2022 AV-7, Michael LePage, parcel number 318.1-1-16 RT zone residential town, 1.77 acres, location 7 Ralph Road, front yard setback variance 75 feet. It is being changed to 71.4 feet. We discussed previously that the front porch does not enter into that setback as long as it's not covered. I would like to statement any approval that that front porch cannot be covered.
okay. So that's part of your condition.
Yes.
So I wouldn't call it a porch. I would call it landing and stairs.
Okay. Anyone object to that?
As long as it's not attached to the house, it can be covered, right? It's only if it's attached to the house.
If it isn't open to the sky, it's then considered part of the line of the house. And then that landing, that would make the variant, it would increase that variance to this original that I had put on there 67.4, but we determined that because it was open to the sky, it wasn't counted. That's the way it's written in the ordinance when you look at the definition of the front of the building line of the house.
Well, I thought if it was not attached, if a porch was not attached to the house,
No, if you were to put, say, a deck at the front of your house and you didn't attach it, just abutted it to it, it still counts as part of the line of the building.
okay.
Do you need a second?
I do need to say,
I'll second that, Karen. Move this along.
please.
Just,
Yes.
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 Okay, so your variance was approved. I will get you a copy of this. I can either scan it in and email it to you or mail it to you, whichever you prefer.
Okay.
Okay,
You can email it.
all right, it'll be Monday because I have to have the town clerk's office stamp it. Okay,
Thank you very much.
so you're all set.
Appreciate it. Thank you very,
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, you want to sign this?
You're just saying that because you know, I'll forget if you don't have to do it right now.
Well, I put John Karimsky down instead of you, so the chairman's,
It's okay.
I had to change it. I
Oh, on the.
Or is he?
You better sign it.
wish I was perfect.
Item number 2 on the agenda is a new application, area variance 2023 AV-1. Applicant Michael Goodhart, agent for owner Nancy Seed and Matt Witten, 528 Gailey Hill Road, Lake Luzerne, asking for side yard setback relief.
Yeah, I have plans here of what they're going to be doing, but I will need that back. But
Okay.
I gave you a screen, just a portion of it in your packet as to what applied, but that's the full set of plans right there. Okay,
Okay, thank you. Before we go through the application, Mr. Goodhart, would you please give us a summary of what you're requesting?
Sure. There's an existing porch behind their garage that's attached to the side of their house. And what they'd like to do is extend that porch to the corner of the house. So it'd be an additional 12 feet down the house and 12 feet out from that. The reason that we need the variance is because it's going to affect the setback. It's 10 feet and change on one side. You'll see on the site plan. It's 10'3" on the side of the house that we're not attaching the porch to. It is, it would go down to 10'4" on the adjoining side. The neighbor next door is Nancy Side's sister and her husband. And they are supportive of this being granted. But obviously you'll need to mail them and get a response or give them an opportunity to respond. But their family has grown. Their two sons are married now. Both of them have kids, and they just need a little bit more room for this dining porch to make it the house function when the family's there.
Were you involved in the construction of the original porch?
Nope.
the original house is a modular.
Original house is modular, the
I'm
garage
just-
was added and the porch was added.
Just looking at the drawing, at the the jog in the existing porch, my question was that done to meet the setback requirements?
Oh, good call.
Because
More
that's.
than more than likely.
I mean, it's one would not normally jog a porch like that.
All right.
Excuse me. So we are here this evening to review the application for completeness. So I'd like to go through the application. Property address 528 Gailey Hill Road. It is within 500 feet of a county or state right of way. On that tax map ID 292.8-1-6. Mr. Goodhart is the representative of Nancy Seed and Matt Witten, who own 528 Gailey Hill Road and also 550 Walsingham Place, Pacific Palisades, California. The relief is Article 5, Section Table A, dimensional table, side yard setback, total of 30 feet required, asking for 20.7 or a variance of 9.3 feet. And Karen has received the application fee. History of the property, purchased 2007, added porch at that time, garage was added at that time as well. Description of proposed action, extend porch to end of the building. Variance standards, question number 1, describe how the requested variance does not alter the character of the larger neighborhood or impact adjacent properties. This doesn't affect anyone's view. It is not visible from the street. Closest adjacent house is 75 feet away and owned by owner's sister. Any comments?
No.
My opinion is the question is answered, Jamie.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Question.
Or just
Yeah, question answered.
Questions answered.
Questions answered.
Mike.
We missed his cue.
Questions answered.
Question number 2, describe what alternatives have been explored to achieve a solution other than a side variance. None, there is no space on other sides of the building. I've been there, I agree with that. Question is answered.
Yeah, well, the question is answered. Go for the debate, that's answered.
Yeah. Question answered.
Questions answered.
Questions answered.
Question number 3, explain whether this requested variance is substantial. No, this is not substantial since it is only 9 feet 5 inches less than code. A neighbor has supported this addition. Question is
The
answered.
question is answered. Debate, that's
The code is 30 feet,
total.
Total.
Also, there's
30 for both
a little less than 1/3. Right.
Yeah.
So it is answered in their opinion.
It is,
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
correct.
I said.
Correct. Yeah, it is answered.
In his opinion, it's answered.
It is answered.
Correct. So it is complete.
Question number 4, describe how the requested variance will not have an adverse impact on physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. This variance will not be visible from the road since it is behind the garage. Question is answered.
Question answered.
Question answered.
Question answered.
Questions answered.
Question number 5, describe how the requested variance is not a self-created difficulty. It is a self-created due to the shape of the existing lots. That question is definitely answered.
Answered.
And first answered and the first one honest I've ever seen.
Answered.
Questions answered.
Look at the site plan and you.
Yeah.
and it tells you.
Do you know the dimensions of the actual addition? Is that That's
It's
in,
approximately, let's see. If you were to look, nope, she didn't put the line in. On section 1, like it's not, or drawing number 1 on the plans.
Mhm.
That is not completely accurate. It does go to the corner of the house. But her dimensions here, which she didn't put dimensions in, but it is actually about from the existing end, not, where after the jog in the end, it is 12 feet there, and it appears that it's only like 5 or 6 feet from if you were to scale that drawing. And it is really, but if you go to,
I think the question's gonna be, Mike, is can you provide us with the exact measurements of the porch?
yeah, well, it's gonna be the existing porch.
The existing porch and then
and
the
the,
overall.
and the
proposed.
addition.
Well, the proposed addition, the existing porch is 16 feet by 12 feet. And the addition is 12 by 12.
Okay.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, thank you.
This would be a question for Karen. Back in 2007, when the garage and the addition were put on, were they permitted?
Yes,
Okay, and like Matt mentioned, was that little jog in that porch? To keep them like within the limits of,
that's what it looks like from, this is the site plan that was in the file for that permit, and that's what it looks like from that they put that jog in there.
I'd say it was more than looks like, but
Oh, yeah.
so it was already, somebody already.
Oh.
They already knew that it was closed.
What I look at with this is in the future, 10, 15 years down the road, if that septic has to be replaced, I'm good with that. And there's only 10 feet. They would, it'd be hard to get equipment down through there. And neighbors might be cool with it now, but the property could be sold and the next neighbors could put a fence right down through there. And then you would never get any equipment down there to ever fix that septic.
You have 10 feet on the opposite side. I don't know what it takes for a piece of an excavator to get down in there, but.
I'm just looking at it for the future homeowners and so somebody doesn't buy something that they can't work on.
But from looking from Gailey Hill back at the house, on the right side of the house, there is a 10-foot tree to the property line. Is that sufficient to get an excavator in?
Fortunately, it's a really good question, but we just have to get the application to answer it.
right,
Yeah,
correct.
I'm just voicing.
Yeah. I
Oh,
really thought,
I-
it's really easy to get caught.
Understand your
You know?
concern.
Yeah, it's very, very valid, but I think you have to say that. Talking about that right now. No, it's had,
So we'll go back to
we
the
get to
application,
look at the
sorry.
application review. Yeah, no. It happens all the time. And I'm just as guilty.
I'm not gonna comment. Moving back to the application, we have a copy of the deed. Tax records.
And now you have the accurate measurements on everything, correct?
I have the accurate measurements. Indeed.
Well, what you might want to ask is that, with that question of yours, if Karen has any idea, just for reference, of how old the septic system is, because I have to imagine it was back in one of the builds, and the modules there, was that 07?
Yeah, it is the original septic
Okay.
system that's in there.
Yeah.
And it was pumped a couple of years ago.
I was just throwing it out there because when I built my house, I had to do the same thing and I kept mine tight on one side. And now I'm kind of kicking myself because I'm like, oh my God, that's so tight. And that's why I'm throwing it out there.
Oh, I understand completely. I've told other people that same thing and said, remember, you have a septic in the backyard.
Yeah.
You gotta maintain access.
But I'm sorry, I got off a little bit. We'll go back to Matt in the application.
Does anybody else think we need any further information on this application from Mr. Goodhart? No.
Make a motion to accept the application for area variance 2023 AV-1. Michael Goodhart, agent for Nancy Seed and Matt Whitten, 528 Gailey Hill Road, asking for side yard setback relief.
I'll second that.
Please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Make a motion to set a public hearing for area variance 2023 AV-1. Applicant Michael Goodhart for March 9th at 7:05 PM.
I second that.
Yes.
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 So that's March 9th, correct?
Correct. I had a look, that's why.
Matt, are you gonna talk about APA at all? The referral is in the file from the county. I've got it back already. There's no,
Oh,
County
you did?
impact.
Oh, I didn't get it. Okay.
well, that's my county one, not
Oh,
not
oh.
APA.
Oh, okay.
And then they're exempt from seeker. I've given you the section on that, but
Yes.
have you heard anything from?
The APA contacted me 2 weeks ago and said they were running, it was gonna be another 2 to 3 weeks.
So you should get
But they
that
said
back.
I talked to, well, through email, we traded notes and they felt like they had all the information they needed.
Okay,
But that the person that I spoke with is the receiving person. Then someone else reviews it.
well, you've got 4 more weeks now to get
Sure,
it back
right,
anyway.
yeah,
And they do generally send me a copy of their decision by email.
And they will send it to Nancy and Matt in California. So when they get it, I will make sure I get a copy back.
Okay.
And you and I can compare notes.
The other option we have is if we do not receive APA approval prior to the public hearing, we can, should we decide to grant the variance, we can grant it with the stipulation that it requires APA
Okay.
approval.
Peter, did you need extra copies of plans? Not yet?
No, what I have, I will
It's a
keep
bit-
in my file if and when, if it's granted. Again, we've talked about how many sets I need
Right,
for the
yeah, I've
county.
got 'em. Right, yeah.
Karen, have I left anything else out?
No, sorry.
No, thank you. The next item is complete.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you. Item number 3, approving minutes from ZBA meeting, January 12th, 2023. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
Anyone have any questions?
I'm all set.
I have a motion.
I motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Under new and old business. Couple of items. The property, the Charlene property on Potash Road. I was speaking to their contractor yesterday on a different matter, but I asked him the question where he stood on completion. And he says that property, he is looking to get a CO shortly. So that will not be an issue with regard to the time frame for the accessory structures that were placed on the property without a primary structure being built. So that's something we won't have to worry about. I did get a copy from Annie of the list of zoning items that we thought that we know we need to work on, amongst others. Unfortunately, my printer died on me this afternoon, so I didn't have a chance to make copies of it. And it's somewhat confounded by the changes to zoning proposed by the proposed new town plan. I don't want to see any wasted work efforts I would like to take the time to talk to Jim Niles, who was our contact with the town board for zoning, to get some more specifics on what the town plan is actually entailing. I did attend the meeting the other night via Zoom. I've got some concerns. One of my concerns is this is a major evolution to do what is proposed. I don't disagree with any of the objectives of the new town plan. My concern comes as to where funding comes from to accomplish this. This is not a part-time job. This is a full-time major, which is why I need to talk to Councilman Niles, because I need to get a better understanding of exactly what they're looking for.
Well, you want to send out like via email to us what Annie's notes were, just to refresh our memories? So
Yeah, I will do that.
Because
I'll let me just, let me, well,
there was a few of them, I know that.
well, no, because we've knocked one off the list. That's Rails Chickens. Because the town changed the rules, so chickens are no longer an issue. With what we had were dumpsters, signs, horses and acreage. That's more, it's more than, well, horses and acreage and livestock in general and acreage. Right now, the town ordinance requires 1 acre to have livestock, and there's no upper bound on how much livestock you can have on 1 acre, which is
Your neighbor,
so,
there's people have multiple livestock on 1 acre, which
Yes.
must be a question.
yes. Well, it's not only, it's more than a zoning question. It's a
For the health,
animal
Yeah.
cruelty
yeah,
issue
and health.
and health issue.
Right.
And the right to farm law. too, for a lot of people.
Except our town doesn't have a right
I
to
know.
farm law. We don't have an agricultural district.
Trailers and campers. Roof height's our favorite.
Wasn't the town board working on the trailers and campers?
They did for a while, but it's gone by the wayside. I mean, we took it to the planning board. The planning board made a suggestion to the town board to look at RVs through site plan review or special use permit, actually, because that would require a public hearing every time. And the members of the board at that time couldn't agree as to what they wanted. Some wanted, anyway, they couldn't agree. It didn't get passed. Then when when Attorney Mitchell came on board as the town's attorney, he tried to implement a moratorium on them for a while to try, so that we could try to come up with something to address them in the zoning ordinance. And again, the town board could not agree, and it got tabled, and it's not ever been looked at again.
But there's nothing that we can do about that. Is there? No. that's the zoning board.
Unless you
Other
want to
than-
change, unless you want to change what is in the zoning ordinance of the requirement right now, which basically all that is in there is that you can park and store an RV on a parcel in a side, and it has to be in the side or rear yard, which means in order to have a side or rear yard, you have to have a building on the lot. So any lot that has no building, you can't have an RV on it. And that's all that's in the zoning ordinance. That's as much as it is addressed.
And you can't be on waterfront, because if you're on waterfront, you don't have a backyard.
Correct, correct. Because when you are on waterfront, you have more than one front yard. It's considered a front yard.
Mhm.
So you end up with no rear yard. Well, I suppose they could park it on the sides of their house, because they would have side yards.
Right.
But anyway, so and it has never been addressed again. It's one of the things they talk about periodically, that it needs to be looked at and something done, but nothing has been done.
So like, the last time we made any changes, recommended any changes to the town was when Mark Mayhew was still
Mhm.
chairman. So that was several years ago.
And that was a bunch of just clarification over, we did overhangs and we did a couple of things for clarification.
Right, we clarified some definitions. One of the things that the town plan talks about, removing inconsistencies in our definitions. But I don't have any more definition of the concern than that.
Tracy Collier came in and spoke to me. And I gave her my list of issues that I have with the zoning ordinance. And so I think that inconsistencies, some of that came from my list, things that I have found that are a little bit contradictory in the zoning ordinance. I can read you my list if you want me to. It's 2 pages long. But I have issues as well with the ordinance that that I've just been keeping as I come across them. And hoping that someday we were going to revamp it or have a meeting and talk about these, and then I would bring these to us when we do that as well, but I have 2 pages.
Do you want Karen to read us her concerns? You just want to email them to us.
I'll scan them in and, they may not make complete sense because they're just kind of things that I've written down as I went along, and she asked me to compile them, so I typed them up and sent them to her, but I will send them to you.
And I'll just go over some of the things from the town plan on land use and zoning. Clear up the consistency and update with state and county laws. Remove unnecessary obstacles in the zoning code to encourage the redevelopment of dilapidated and vacant properties. I'm really not sure what that means. Karen?
I'm sorry?
This statement, remove unnecessary obstacles in the zoning code to encourage the redevelopment of dilapidated and vacant properties.
I don't know what that means either.
Okay,
That means make the laws more flexible, so you can take an old building that should be torn down and fix it up. Kind of in a way. That's what they're doing in Corinth right now.
But what is in my ordinance that is
Stops you.
stopping that?
that's what, I don't know what.
Yeah.
That
uh,
statement is saying the ordinance is hindering people from cleaning up.
Correct, but it's not.
Yeah,
Right.
So the
uh,
stater of that statement would have to explain it.
Protect residential areas from incompatible uses. I thought that's why we had zoning. So like I said, this is the plan. This is, if you want to, I forwarded all of it from Jim. So this is directly from that plan. It's available on the county website. There's also recommended actions is to draft final regulations regarding short-term rentals. I talked to Karen about this because I'm not really sure. I thought the town had determined that they were not going to use zoning to regulate short-term rentals, which is why they were going to have a short-term rental plan separate from zoning. But as Karen pointed out to me, the current proposal has zoning specifically currently, since we don't have a short-term rental enforcement officer. Karen and Chris become the short-term rental zoning enforcement officers. It's
But that's not gonna affect.
but it's not part of the zoning
But-
ordinance. It is a separate
right.
local law that is,
Affect us at all.
it's not
No,
like added in as Article 7 in the zoning ordinance, whatever.
Adopt a townwide smart growth policy for all projects and initiative. Smart growth is a range of development and conservation strategies that create livable, sustainable, resilient, and equitable communities. I didn't know what that meant, so I went and looked up what smart growth communities are. I still don't know what it has to do with zoning. Like I said, I need to talk to our representative from the town board. And get some clarification, before we move forward. Just like the previous list, in addition, I do want to discuss just a little bit roof heights. Now, we know that the roof height for accessory structure is 18 feet unless it's detached. And we also know, since we discussed this many times, none of us know who came up with that 18-foot restriction. Does anyone have a recommendation as to what they think it should be?
I'm gonna pose a question. What is the APA height? Is it for, I know it's an APA code for accessories.
I don't know. I would have to find that out. That's a good point.
For primary, isn't it?
It's 40 feet for primary. And I'm not sure if their definition of how to measure that is the same as ours, because as you know, Jamie, as a builder, some different towns have different definitions of how to measure a building height sometime. It's not always the same, but APA's is 40, but it includes the chimney at that point, where ours does not include the chimney, and it's at 38 from lowest grade to highest peak for the principal structure. But the accessory structures are not supposed to exceed 18 feet or the height of the principal structure, whichever is less. So that's where the problem with the double wides come in, because a lot of times they're not even 18 feet high. And people are wanting to put in garages with a double wide manufactured home, and they want that extra space for storage, and they've got to come every time for a variance for that. So I think that was part of why that, plus the fact that we have done so many variances for heights on garages.
So what we could either do, I think one of two things, either go back and look at it. I know you have nothing else to do. Go back and look at and see what the average of what we've had granted, or just take basically a general, here's a general 2-car garage, which is 24 by 24. And you're gonna have the walls are gonna be a total of 10 foot, and the maximum's gonna be a 12-12 pitch. So then there you are, 12-12. So it can't be more than 24 feet tall.
Yeah.
We have to think of something, I think, along those lines for just a setting point to work.
Is
off of.
12-12 pitch fairly common? I always kind of
They
figured
do it in a lot of
7-12.
garages. Yeah, but everyone wants storage in their garages now, and really to get any kind of storage, you need a 10 or a 12
Yeah,
to fit anything up there. You could do it in a 7, but you have to be a midget, you have to be a short person to fit up there.
yeah. And you're only going to get a partial.
And a
Area.
good deal, I mean, we've had people with pole and, for campers and stuff, and they've been really higher than that,
Mm.
so. You'd have to just pick a set thing or average up what we've already granted, my thought is.
Well, it wouldn't, I could go back, there haven't, I could go back and pull the variances that we've done for heights and get an average.
Or is there a zoning officer listserv you can ask in area communities what theirs is,
I can, yes.
just for your
Comparison.
comparison? That's just a suggestion. I'm not telling you what to do.
Burgess.
I'm referring to Jamie, they build things, but if I can get a garage door, it's 12 feet. And now if I want 5 to.
Right.
you-
But I'm
It's
just
very
saying, like a general, actually, you have to think of general, I mean, a basic 2-car garage is basically 24 by 24, that's like. You really want to go smaller than that.
Right.
Most people go bigger, and then if you have, like concrete and 8-foot walls, you're gonna be 10 foot high. Plus a 12-12 pitch, so that's easy math, 12-12 and 10, that's 22 feet, so maybe even cushion it. So the floor thickness isn't
Oh, I-
24 feet.
I concur. Mine is exactly 18 feet high. With that garage door, you have 4 feet and 6 inches to walk through.
After
Throw that away.
after working here for the 3+ years that I've been here, I think that the purpose of keeping that height low was to discourage people being able to turn garages into
Oh,
habitable space without anyone realizing that they were using them as habitable space. I think that's what the intent was, but I don't know that. I wasn't part of it. But in looking at
Well, that would be really
the
tough, 'cause even that-
regulations, that's one of the things that I've come up with is
Right,
why
that's
they
the
may have
entry
done
level,
that.
but so much obviously more to go, septic and water and everything else that was gonna flag something like that too.
Well, I know we're not gonna solve that. tonight.
No, but
No.
let's get started a little bit of homework on it, I guess.
After roof heights, Airbnbs, so we know that's being.
Somebody else is gonna take care of
Being
that.
taken care of. Solar panels, which I have no idea where that's going based on what New York State is doing with solar, pushing solar.
I think it was because there's nothing in concrete in our zoning ordinance that deals with solar farms. We've never had a solar farm application yet come through. We've talked about it, and Jim when Jim Niles was the chairman, he did some research on it and determined that we would have to treat it as a public-private utility type thing and go from there with it. But it's solar farms are not specifically addressed
Mhm.
in our ordinance, and I think that that's where
Mhm.
that came
Yes,
from.
I remember talking about that.
Is there a size limit for a solar farm? At what point are you called a solar farm? Well,
I
we
don't
don't have,
know.
we
Nothing in there.
have no regulation.
Right.
Okay. But a large scale solar farm would be a public utility? That's a question for council.
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't think I've heard that, but I can research that.
Okay, well, I wouldn't do anything right now because it's, cell towers, but now we know where cell towers stand.
Been through that one.
Yeah, we've been through that one. Light manufacturing. I saw this, in the proposed, town plan. Using PDDs, to allow light manufacturing in areas where they're not currently allowed. Which was interesting because I had the good fortune of being able to attend the zoning and planning conference in Saratoga last week. And that was one of the things that the presenter told us that we should absolutely never do. So it's interesting.
There's only one area on the map for industrial. So how could they have manufacturing in town?
I don't know.
Yeah, the only manufacturing we have in town is the
It's not
Ketchum,
like Ketchum, and that's it.
and that's the only area for industrial, Hamlet Industrial is that area. And now we have that, private car collection
Oh, yeah.
building there, and
Yeah.
that's in Hamlet Industrial Area.
Yeah. You know, what would be the recommendation is they have a proposed map right there. If we could have the existing map right next to it, like an overlay or something. Because they're saying this is what we propose, this is what we want to do.
Okay,
Now show us what the existing is. Because these are all a bunch of proposed maps of how they want to save the world. If they can give us, what they currently are, so people can compare. Instead of looking at just the new.
And when you asked me the question, had I been provided with those maps, my answer is still no. I had not been provided with those maps.
Because I read down through the whole thing and it kept saying like, refer to map. And it's how do you refer to the map if it's not there? And I know it's not you.
The last item was outdoor wood burners. We've had one experience with that. We have regulations on outdoor wood burners. That I think that question was more along the New York State ban or not ban on outdoor wood.
I think they
burners.
should loosen them up.
I have, someone told me that they now are making some wood furnaces that pass that EPA, is it EPA requirement?
Is EPA.
Their
requirement.
approval. But I don't know that. I forget who told me that. Because of that person selling those wood furnaces outside of current.
That may be the case now. I know at the time when we were dealing with that case.
There were
There
none.
were none.
Yes, I
There were
know.
none that met the requirements. Anyway, so there's a lot of things we have to work on. But before we do that, before we do that, I really need to sit down and talk with our liaison with the town council and find out what it is they're looking for and how we're going to go about doing this and who's going to be doing it, where the money's going to come from. I did ask the question at the meeting on the town plan the other night, where funding is coming from. I was told that town had applied for a grant, did not receive the grant. My response was, so we don't have funding. And then I got, well, no, that's not the case. Well, if you apply for a grant, you don't get it. In my book, you don't have funding. If you haven't identified funding, you don't have funding. And to go through the zoning map and go through every property that's in two different zones, and then compare that to what the APA requires. And look at the proposal. That piece alone is a big chunk of work. And I know that the two individuals who are responsible for zoning enforcement are not going to be able to do their jobs if they're trying to do that in addition. So it's, like I said, I need to talk to our town liaison.
I think they should put this whole comprehensive plan on the ballot and let the people in town vote on it if they want change. That's just my opinion.
Well, they'll be having a public hearing on it, so you can certainly bring that up
Yes,
when they have that public hearing.
it's next week, right?
The 16th, I believe.
Yes,
Correct.
I believe
Chris,
it
is
is.
that right?
That's a Thursday.
Because then everybody can choose.
But this is a lot too. so
Is
you
that-
gotta-
Is that right or not?
No, we're not-
I'll have to look on the website. I'll have to look on the website. They haven't set the public hearing on it because they were going to do that at the town board meeting. That's correct.
Okay,
They haven't set the public hearing yet. They're gonna set it at
All of it would be here.
the public, they're gonna set the public hearing, I think, at the next town board meeting.
We have a Zoom announcement on. They had a question that kind of reflects what Mr. Bordeaux was getting at with the APA regs. You want me to read it out loud?
yeah, sure.
I just had a question. Would it make sense to align the town zoning with the APA zone?
That's a good question. If you look through the comprehensive plan, it mentions in several different places making our zoning consistent with APA. So I asked that question during the meeting the other night. And whether we're going to make all of the town of Lake Luzerne compatible with APA zoning regulations, including those parts of the town which are not in the APA jurisdiction. I did not get a positive response to that. I didn't really get, as you were there. I didn't get a clear response.
The problem with making them consistent with APA is, as you stated, not all of Luzerne is in the Adirondack Park. And the other issue is that we would have to look at like the number of what acreage is allowed per dwelling unit, that what APA regulations are, as opposed to what our current map is, and see if the parcels that exist are anywhere near compatible. I mean, we've already identified some parcels along Pleasant View and East River Drive that should be 1 acre lots for the zone that they're in, I believe, that are residential town, which should be 1 acre lots. There's so many inconsistencies. It's going, no matter whether we try to make them fit in with wherever APA is, make them fit that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be a very large undertaking to look at this zoning map and try to realign it to make it correct. The biggest issues that we've come across so far are these parcels that have more than one zone in them. And that's the biggest issue that we've come across, because any of the other parcels that exist, if they're not, say you have a half-acre parcel and it should be an acre, they're grandfathered in. If you can, so you can build on them if you can fit a house, a well, a septic, if all of that is required, because where there is town water, you don't have to have a well. So that's kind of grandfathered in under this ordinance as it is. But where the problem is coming up are these parcels that have more than one zone in them, and some of them are not big enough to even fit the requirement of that particular zone by itself. So that's what we've been looking at. I mean, we've got a couple of parcels that have 3 or 4 different zones in it, and I was told by Attorney Crow that the state actually frowns upon you having parcels with more than one zone in them. So that's why we started looking at this to try to clean it up a bit, but the map is so crazy. It's going to be quite an undertaking. I mean, you look at the zone down through East River Drive, and it's like there's a corridor of, I think it's residential town. And it's like a swath down through there, all the same width. But then anything beyond that are different zones. And so you've got all those parcels down through there contain more than one zone in a lot of cases, and it's a mess. I've got one up on Hall Hill that has 3 different zones in it. One of them is wild forest, which indicates state land, and there's no state land in that parcel. So I don't know how this came about. And I have another one similar to that down near Call Street area that's like that as well. It's got a state land designation as part of the parcel, and there's no state land there either. So we've got to look at the map and clean it up one way or another.
Or with how it's going to affect property values. Like if it's gonna change, when it changes the zoning on a piece of property, what it's gonna do to the values.
I don't know. I would have to talk to Melissa about that and maybe get her involved in it, but I'm not sure that the assessor assesses based on the zone that you're in. I think she just assesses as to, well, maybe with the use of
It's
the land.
definitely assessed
I
by
don't
zone.
know. I would have to ask, but yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about, will it affect the value of the
Like
land?
if somebody owns a commercial piece of property and it gets changed to like residential.
Well, the problem with that is there's not enough commercial land in town either. That's one of the things that the old comprehensive plan was tried to address, was to find more land in town that we could turn to commercial use. And that's one of the things that's never been looked at or done from,
Like, from a few years ago, Fourth Lake wanted to, there was part of it, and Fourth Lake was zoned both. And they came in front of us, and when it rezoned, and then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, pump the brakes, and they rescinded on everything.
well, they wanted, some of that area in Fourth Lake is Hamlet commercial, and they were looking at specific parcels and wanting to change them all to Hamlet residential. They brought that to the planning board. And because of that comprehensive plan and the fact that there's not much commercial property in town now, they were balking at it. And they also felt that by doing this, they were spot zoning, because it was individual lots. It wasn't all of this area. It was specific lots. So they talked to them about it, and Fourth Lake they were supposed to come back with some more information or something. And they ended up saying they weren't going to pursue it any further. They would pursue it, I think legally somehow through deeds or something on their own. But
They didn't want commercial in their area, but then on the second hand, they didn't want to lose any value of their property.
Yeah.
By losing that commercial
Yeah.
opportunity. So they couldn't have a cake and eat it too.
But again, even if we end up changing the zoning map, there's any parts of the zoning ordinance, it's all stuff that the public has to approve. They will have to have public hearings on it, and individual property owners would have to be notified that this is what they're looking at to change your zoning from this to this, and, you know, have a public hearing if you have objections or any comments, make sure that they're known and heard before they, you know, passed anything and voted on it. But anyway, getting a little bit off track here, but it will be quite an undertaking when we get to it, if it is done.
And the town is currently, we're currently spending money on this comprehensive plan, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay,
To do it, yes.
yeah, like it's not like grant money, like we're paying like the town.
That's correct. They did not get a grant to do it.
funding.
The town is paying for it.
Okay.
Well, I will get the current list out to you. I will email it out to you. I will get together with Councilman Niles to get more specific information as far as what the comprehensive plan impact is on zoning, and who's gonna do what. I will, once I get that information, I will notify all of you as to what I've learned. Until we do that, I don't want to be wasting our time trying to modify things that might change.
Okay.
Anyone have anything else? New business, old business?
The only thing I have is in your packet. I provided you with an updated contact list and with the new attorney's information on there.
And yeah, real quick, Kevin, is there anything coming down the pipe that you want to bring us up to speed on that we pay attention to? Usually kind of updates a little bit once in a while.
Well, I can tell you that we've got a few subdivisions coming down the road. We have one up in the Heights that they're looking at doing. I think I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, maybe like a 17 lot subdivision up in the Heights area. There's
That much property in the Heights?
there's some, I can't remember the owner name. If you look, it's not on the lake side of
Right.
Sagamore, it's on the other side. It's a
Oh,
big
I know.
parcel there. And you know, where is it? Mill, is there, there's a street, anyway, it's in that area. And then over on Hidden Valley Road, Hall Hill area, the property that Tom Reed owns, they are working with APA on a 9 or 10 lot subdivision. Right now, it has not come to our planning board yet. He's working with APA because they're the amount of houses allowed per acres didn't match what our zoning is, so he was advised to go to APA first and work with them to make sure that rather than get it approved here, because ours is less than what APA's is for the land that he's got. Ours is 1 house per acre. APA's is 1 for 1.3 acres, I think. So he's working with them. They're asking questions now about roads and things, so they may be close to coming to the planning board to have that reviewed. There is Passarelli's property down here on Lake Avenue. They did a 2 lot subdivision, divided out the house and the barn from the main portion of that parcel, and they're looking to put in a subdivision on the remaining part that is vacant. I don't know how many parcels they're looking at because they've been in talking about, again, how many lots could they have, and so they're talking about doing something. And there was one, Evergreen Estates over on Call Street, which was an approved subdivision back in 2009. They're making some revisions to that, so that looks like that might be going in hopefully soon. They've got quite a bit ahead of them because their time frame for approval with DOH and DEC has expired. And so they've got to go back to them and get reapproval, but so that one's coming down the pike too. So we have those are kind of big items in town.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So how we doing?